I have here a letter from a serial killer. So this story really begins in 2010. I just finished a master's degree at Columbia. It was a big waste of money, but I went there because the US was in a terrible recession. You know, we had inherited, obviously, a recession in 2008, and it had still been a lot of lingering fallout from that. So I was kind of living at home, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I kind of got the idea in my head somehow that I would send letters to a bunch of serial killers in lockup in federal penitentiaries around the country and ask them for their advice to me. What should I, a new college grad, do in America in 2010? I do recall discussing the idea of maybe writing a book if I got anything really fun, like called Killer Advice. I had a title. I only got a few back. But one of them was from a man named Ted Kaczynski, but you probably know him better as the Unabomber. I didn't give my full name, I just sent it as John, and I used a P.O. box. And then all of a sudden, a month after I sent the letter, there's a letter response from him in the P.O. box. It was my father's P.O. box. I didn't tell him I was going to use his P.O. box and that it would be receiving content from these people. He said it caused quite a stir at the post office, but here it is to me, and it says, Theodore Jon Kaczynski, U.S. Penitentiary Max, Florence, Colorado. And you could tell by his handwriting that he was a real psycho. If you get a letter, or if anyone writes you a letter when the handwriting is like this, you better not open it. And obviously, he was infamous for his mail bombs, so thankfully this one was a dud. And he sent me a one-page letter on very crisp, legal yellow pad paper. And it says, Ted Kaczynski to John Anonymous. He thought he was being funny. I did not provide my last name for obvious reasons. June 3rd, 2010. Dear John, to answer your undated letter postmarked 5/25/10, you will find my advice in my new book titled Technological Slavery, available from Ferrell House, 1240 West Sims Way, Port Townsend, Washington, 98368. And then he proceeded to give me a phone number and an email address, and also told me that it would cost $22.95 plus $5.50 for shipping and handling. Check or money order payable to Ferrell House. But then the second part of the letter is actually more interesting, where he goes on to an extended disquisition about my handwriting. I hope I have your address right. I can read your return address either as Ardsley or as Ardsley. Ardsley seems more plausible. It's amazing how many letters I get from people who want a reply, but don't seem to realize that I can't reply if I don't have their address. They write their return address so sloppily that it's almost impossible to decipher. Ted Kaczynski. So my takeaway from this is that the Unabomber is just like a little bitch. And in my earnest question to him about what I should do for, my post-college career, his response to me was to buy his book and that my handwriting sucked. I sent dozens of letters to America's most notorious killers in federal lockup, people who will never see the light of day again, even with prosecutors like Alvin Bragg. But Ted Kaczynski wasn't the only person to come back to me. A second person also brought me a letter. This person killed 10 times more Americans than Ted Kaczynski, one of the most heinous mass murderers in our history. And he sent me a very long letter, which I'm going to save and will be the subject of another video from me shortly.